Hello together. I'm Andreas Rödl, the mayor of the village of Oberammergau. Thank you very much for joining us today for our virtual press tour and welcome to Oberammergau. I would like to give you a little overview about our beautiful region. Oberammergau is located 1 hour south of Munich in the place Ammertal, at the foot of the Kofel mountain, surrounded by the Ammergau Alps. The place is famous for the frescoes at the house walls, as well as the arts and the crafts of the Herrgottschnitzer. The wood carvers contribute to its attractiveness. Maybe some of you have a nativity scene from Oberammergau under the Christmas tree. Oberammergau and its residents are known for their history, art and tradition, as well as for their hospitality. Usually, Oberammergau has about 390,000 overnight stay per year, and people from all over the world, they are spending their holidays here. Oberammergau and the surrounding area of the Ammergau Alps offer a large variety of free time and cultural activities, as the Ettal Monastery, known as for the monastery liquor, and the Linderhof Palace of the König Ludwig II. And now, let's have a look on Ettal, Linderhof and our beautiful surrounding area. However, Oberammergau is best known for its Passion Play, which attracts thousands of visitors every 10 years and which the inhabitants have been staying since 1634. I'm very proud to be part of it too. It's my first time I'm singing on the choir. 2010 I was a Roman soldier, and I'm really looking forward to the premiere next year in May, so I hope to welcome you all to Oberammergau then. And now, enjoy some impressions of the Passion Play.
Halleluja! Ist erstanden! Andreas Rödel, that's the Mayor of Oberammergau, for your welcoming words. My name is Tania Higgins and I'm delighted to be here in Oberammergau today. I travelled an hour by train from Munich and to the picturesque village of Oberammergau, and now we're in the Passion Play Theatre here in the centre stage. So I'm delighted to welcome the driving force behind the Passion Play. Director of the Passion Play, he's directing it for the 4th time this year. Warm welcome to Christian Stückl.
Welcome to.
And I'm delighted to have Frederik Mayet here. You play Jesus and you're also Director of Communications for the Passion Play. So now in the first part, we'll start with the history of the play and the tradition of the play before we go into the second part and then talk about the details of the 2022 production. So Frederik, let's start at the very beginning. What is the history of the Passion Play?
So, the Passion Play of Oberammergau has a very long tradition and history. It all started almost 400 years ago. So it was in the time of the 30 Years' War. In 1630, 1632, the Swedish troops came to our region, and for a very long time nothing happened here in the village. So this is what the chronicles say, because there were guards around the village, and they were, because the Swedish troops they brought the Black Plague with them, and this was a very hard time, a lot of war, a lot of diseases, and not a lot happened in Oberammergau. There were guards around the village and they kept the people away. But there was one person, he was from Oberammergau, Kaspar Schistler. He worked in a neighbor village and he sneaked over the mountains into the village. And in 1632, 1633, he brought the Black Plague with him. And we don't know exactly how many people died, but there's some numbers we know, but we assume that perhaps 20% of the population of Oberammergau died within a few weeks and months. And of course, no one knew what was happening. Everyone thought, or the people thought, they didn't know about pandemics and diseases, and they thought it's a punishment by God. And so the villagers of Oberammergau, they made a vow that they will play the Passion Play, or the last days of Jesus Christ, every 10 years when God takes this disease away from the village. And so it is said that from this day, when the promise was made, no one died anymore. Also, even some were still, or had the signs of the injury on their bodies. And so the first Passion Play was played in 1634, and so over the centuries, over the decades, the Passion Play was played every 10 years, and it became, it is today one of the, well, it is the most famous Passion Play in the world, with visitors from all over the world. And
thank you. So, Christian, how did the Passion Play become so popular? Who were the first visitors? How did it spread and become so well known around the world?
First, I have to say my English is horrible, but I tried.
We'll help you out.
But I tried. I think the first 200 years. We are in nearby Oberammergau. We have a monastery, Ettel, and we have another one monastery, Rottenbuch, and the monks and the priests bring the text to Oberammergau. So it was under the influence of the priests. It's in this time it starts. But
so you're in the right location.
Yeah, but it was only a play for the region. So nobody knows all 10 years. If we go 250 years back, so only the farmers and the people who lives around Oberammergau comes to Oberammergau. In the middle of the 19th century, suddenly it starts that people from Munich come and wrote in the newspaper that you have to see, and more and more people come to Oberammergau in this time around to Munich. At this time it needs 2 days to reach Oberammergau. And in 1880, one man comes to Oberammergau, the Reverend Thomas Cook. Everybody knows his name, and he saw the passion play, and he starts as first marketing for Oberammergau. And suddenly in 1880, people come from America, and in 1880 and 90, people come also from the Archbishop from Melbourne visit Oberammergau. And in 1900, the Archbishop was Honolulu, from the other side of the world. And suddenly it starts more and more. And in 2000, and then we built a big theater, and now we have one of the populous passion play in the world.
I believe you're selling 450,000 tickets, and so you are probably the biggest passion play in the world, right?
Yes.
Okay. You have a very old tradition here. It dates back to 1634. We talked about the plague. Now suddenly in 2020, there's a cancellation because of a pandemic. How did that make you feel, Frederik? I mean, that really sounds like an echo of the origins of the play, and now you're suddenly find yourself in a similar situation. What were your thoughts?
Oh, of course, it was like a really difficult time, because in the beginning it was like no one really knew what was happening. You first heard about some virus in China, and then it came closer and closer. And then you heard about that there are some persons have this virus in Italy, and then in Austria, and we were just I don't know, 10 weeks before the opening night of the Passion Play in 2020. It was February, March, and so we were rehearsing. We had like hundreds of persons here on stage, and every day we came together, and we were preparing for, I don't know, 1.5 years.
It was just 2 months before the premiere,
it was just
wasn't it?
8 weeks before the premiere. And you noticed that more and more the people were getting nervous, and when someone was coughing on stage, people were looking what's going on. And I think it was horrible for Christian to direct, because he had the feeling that he, I don't know.
It was really a bad thing, because I have the feeling it comes closer and closer from Italy to Austria, and we can really every day in the newspaper, in the TV, we can see it comes. But we have rehearsal with 450 persons on the stage, and suddenly the people go away and say, "No, I like not to come on the stage," and then we have to say, we have to stop.
So the authorities came and they said, so it's not allowed to do the Passion Play. And in the first moment, it was an absolutely shock for everyone. So it was like in front of the theater outside, we had like a press conference and all that.
I have to say it to the people, and I couldn't hold back my tears. Suddenly it was really hard.
But in a way, did you feel that you were in a similar situation to the beginnings of the play, Black Plague?
In the first moment, nobody thinks on the plague in 1660. We are every day on stage. We are, every actor is concentrated to the play, and then we couldn't believe what happened in this moment. So later we think it starts with a plague, and now we have again a plague.
Yeah, and it was also like that. You have like a similar situation like 100 years before. It was in 1920, there was a Passion Play planned, and then was World War I, and then there was the Spanish flu, and in 1920, although the Passion Play was postponed to 1922, and then we talked, of course, about this, and we talked about how perhaps it was 400 years ago, and so I'm sure it was absolutely different 400 years ago or 100 years ago.
One of the things we talked about, Christian, before, which I find really interesting, is that you said in 1634, when the play came, that people thought it was a punishment from God. And so that aspect has changed. How do you see the pandemic? And you also mentioned during the 80s, the HIV virus that went around the world. What has changed since the medieval days in the thinking of these pandemics?
I think we know today about virus, about what happened in our body and what happened. People in 1633, nobody knows about these things. People believe there has to be a punishment by God. We are bad people, and so sometimes God comes like the flood,
like a flood.
Flood. When Noah, and so
there's punishment.
And in the 80s, I become my job, and then in front of the Passion Play, before the Passion Play start, we do all 10 years a play about the plague, about our history, and I wrote this text new because I say we cannot tell there is a bad God who give us punishment. I think we believe to God in a total different way like in the Middle Age.
And how do you believe it is now? Or how do you
now
approach
it becomes
that
very difficult.
Perhaps with this, specifically after the pandemic, with this production, what do you want to say about the fate of being human, about those things that happen to us?
It's very difficult for me to bring it together with the plague or with something like this. Okay. Since a long time, I think how to tell Jesus, how to tell Jesus, and it's changed all 10 years in my head. So I look all 10 years in a different way. So as a young man, I think the whole time I need a rebel on the stage. Now I have the feeling Jesus is more a people who goes to the border of the poor people, of the people who are outside the society. So and he's a very strict, and he has not to be loud, and he has not to be schreien.
He doesn't have to shout. He doesn't have to be such a rebel
on stage.
Yeah.
I think he tries to hold us and not to punish us. And so sometimes, even today, if we speak about the Catholic Church or about the Church, I don't like if priests or something like or believers say you have to do this and you have not to do this. I think Jesus says if you believe, you can bring this mountain from this place to the other place. So I think Jesus and God like to open us, not to punish us.
Okay. There's something you've spoken about. You were the youngest director of the play. You first directed it in 1987, is that right?
I directed the play in 1990, but I became
What made you apply for that position at such a young age? I mean, it must have been...
In the 60s, 70s, we have in the village a big fight between conservative persons and reform, and I grew up with this fight, and I very early, in the age of 12, 30, 40, I think I start to think we have to reform the Passion Play, and we have to change a lot of things. So I grow up in a restaurant. We have a
table for regulars.
For regulars,
all the time, yeah.
And all actors are in our restaurant every year evening. My father was Caiaphas. My grandfather earlier he was Caiaphas. Even my grandfather was a part of the high priest. So I as a child, I think the whole time, later on, I become also this part in the Passion Play. Not Jesus, I like to have the same part like my grandfather and my father. But then I start to think about the play because I hear so many things, and I remember in the age of 15, I say, I like to be the director of the Passion Play because it is very important to change the story in a different ways. So we have anti-Semitic terms in the play. I think we have to change this, but also I have to change the
mentality.
The blick of Jesus.
The view.
The view on Jesus. So it starts very early, and then I built first I do theater with children. I try to do it. My first play was a play about the Christmas story, and then I do some fairy tales, and then I built a theater group, and in the age of 22, the director who directed the play in the 80s, he couldn't handle with young people, and I say now the young people have to come to the stage. I like to be the director, and even my mother says you are crazy, you are too young. But I am sure I am the next director, and I go to the city council and say give me the job, and with 9 to 8 votes I get this job, and the whole village was shocked. But now I'm since 86, 87 the director of the play.
The fourth time. So I really like how you describe that about how the village lives and breathes, and talking about the play even between the 10 years, I presume. We'll come back to the changes you made because that's really interesting as well. But just a question for Frederik. So the whole village is involved in this play. Can everyone take part in this play?
Yeah, here in Oberammergau we have like, I think right now 5,500 inhabitants, and in the play there are 1,800 grown-ups and plus another 450, 500 children. But there are some regulations who's allowed to be in the play right now. So you either have to be born in Oberammergau or live here for at least 20 years. So so there are some rules about participating in the play.
Okay, so do you have a lot more people who want to be part of the play than actually get a part?
Yeah, definitely. There are some, they move here, and sometimes it's really hard because 20 years it's a pretty long time. So if you just move in the year after the Passion Play, then you have to wait like almost 29 years because, of course, and that's a pretty long time. And people move here and they live here, and for example, my wife, she moved here almost 10 years ago, and she's not allowed to take part because she's from a neighbor village here in Oberammergau. And yeah, and there are some regulations about it. And yeah, for example, there are another rules. For example, in the year before the Passion Play, you have to let the hair grow, and the men also the beard. And there are some traditions in the play, and so this is what we keep every 10 years.
So how do people schedule their lives around that? Because you have to take time off, so you have a job, and then you have to take time off from that job. How much time do you have to take off from your normal job in order to be part of the Passion Play? Yeah,
it depends on the job. So for example, so if you're, there are some jobs, for example, if you're a technician, you have to leave your job for half a year at minimum. And some people say, oh, I can only participate in the play in the second part, in the evening, because I go to my job during the day, but in the evening I can participate. And there are some parts, so for example, if you have a major or a main role, people have to plan it somehow in their life. So some take unpaid holidays. For example, Eva Reiser, she plays Mary in the play.
But that's like a 5-month holiday, right?
She took like unpaid holidays. As others, they reduce their hours at their regular job. So everyone has to somehow make a big effort to be in the play. It's not only the 5 months when you're playing. But we also have like rehearsals for almost half a year every evening. So it's like you go to your job during the day, and in the evening at 8 or 7 we meet, and then we start with the rehearsals even on the weekends. So it's really like, but people love being
I can imagine it really strengthens the sense of community here, right? It makes a very strong community to have that dedication.
In 2 ways. We have the Passion Play, we have a lot of trouble about. We fight.
It unites you and also creates arguments.
If I say you have to act as Jesus, and you have 3 people around who I like also to play Jesus. So everybody has to grow his hair, and but if you are Romans and Roman soldiers, and you are free from this, and so 400 people like to be a Roman soldier, but they have only 60 seats. But I say for us, this is it's really all 10 years is a big social event for the community. So children are together with 80 years in the green rooms. You stay the whole time together. I think. Sagen wir, nach dem Passionsspiel gehen die Hochzeiten hoch.
So after the Passion Play, the wedding numbers go up, and births,
So it's like,
but it's also some of very old people.
Okay.
Warten, dass sie sterben.
yeah.
The people are waiting for people to die so they can get a
Really, we have before in front
dear.
of the Passion Play a lesser number of deaths and so on.
It's like they say, no, this Passion Play I really want to be a part, and
Last time.
the last time,
Okay.
and so it's
Okay,
really
but no murders, right? All right.
No, but-
One final question, because we're coming to the end of the first part now. A more serious point, perhaps. You've received a few awards because of your work towards anti-Semitism, against anti-Semitism, excuse me. How do you see that in the play? And you've made a lot of changes in the play. Can you tell us a little bit about how it was in the beginning and some changes you made in your approach to the topic of anti-Semitism?
I think the problem, this anti-Judaism, of that, and we have it a long time in the Christianity. It's a long fight, and even if you look back into history, you know many people, many plays are very hard against Jews.
Right.
It comes down a little bit before the Second World War. But in the time of Hitler and the Nazi time, it comes more and more back. And so from the 50s, after the Shoah, suddenly the American Jewish Committee and Anti-Defamation League for America starts to say, you have to make changes. And Hitler comes 1934, we do a play in 1934, and he says, this play is very important for the German Reich, for the Deutsche Reich, because you can see in a very good way how good Romans and how bad Jew. And I hear it in my childhood, and I hear it also on this permanent table. And I start to ask my grandfather in the age of 14, what does it mean, anti-Semitic in the Passion Play? And he's not ready to speak about it. He thinks the whole time, yeah, let's stop to speak about Nazi time. And I come more and more inside. And I go in the 80s, first time to Israel. I try to read the Bible, and then suddenly I start to think the story is not a fight Jew against Christian. It's an inner Jewish conflict. Yeah. Jesus was, from the first day of his life until to the last day, a Jew. He prays in a Jewish way. He goes not to the Holy Communion, he goes to Bar Mitzvah. And suddenly I make it more and more out, and I start to speak, and I say, we have to tell the story in a different way. We have to take out all words of hate against Jewish people. We have to, for example, Judas is in the past. He has a yellow costume.
Yeah.
And this is you know the yellow star.
Yes.
So and I think we have to take out these colors. The menorah. The menorah is inside the high priest, so everybody can see as a high priest killed Jesus.
Right.
I take the menorah out and say, bring it back to the table of the Last Supper. Yeah. Because there is Judaism also. And we try in a long way to discuss with rabbis, with theologians, and to change text, music, the pictures, to tell the story in a new way, without anti-Semitic terms.
Fascinating. So on many levels, you made changes, symbolic in the text.
It's hard to tell where it is in text,
nutshell,
but it was really in many parts. In the costumes, you can see it everywhere. But it's a very difficult thing to bring also the actors to this point, to my own point. And so in 1990, we start the first time to take all main actors, the 40 main actors, and we start our rehearsals every 10 years in Jerusalem to go this ways. And I think every young man and young girl who goes with us, they say, this is one of the important times in the Passion Play, the time where we are in Israel, speak with rabbis, go to the places to where Jesus has been, and speak about Jesus.
That's a beautiful tradition and a beautiful journey. We will hear more about the 2022 production now in the second part. Christian and Frederik, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge on the history and tradition of the Passion Play. So, dear viewers, we now have a 5-minute break because we're going to move to the front stage, and then you'll get a look at the auditorium, and we'll take a closer look at the changes for the 2022 production. See you in 5 minutes.
Thank you.
Welcome back to the virtual press tour for the Oberammergau Passion Play 2022. We're now here in the front stage of the Oberammergau Passion Play Theatre, and it is a stunning theatre. When you come in, you notice the atmosphere. It's all made of wood, and there's fantastic lighting which comes from natural light. There's a glass roof over it, and it's really a very, very special experience to be here in the theatre. Now we can take a look at the auditorium as well, where the viewers will sit. So, Frederik, tell us, how many people fit into this auditorium?
I don't know the exact numbers, but I think it's 4,450 seats we have in the auditorium.
And that's almost as many people as actually live here in Oberammergau, right?
That's right, yeah. And when it was built, like the auditorium, we had like 1,200 inhabitants here in Oberammergau, and in those days we had 6,000 seats, I think, in the auditorium. So it was like a amazing, huge number for this small village here in the Bavarian Alps. Yeah.
Right. You play now for the full season, but not every night, right? How many performances do you do?
So the Passion Play season, or it will start next year in the mid of May, and the last play will be in the beginning of October. So it's the 2nd of October, and in between we have almost, I think it's 109 performances. So we play 5 times a week, and so the whole season is dedicated to the Passion Play.
But you share the parts, so the main parts are shared.
True. Yeah.
Right,
So
you share the part of Jesus with someone.
We have like all the main parts, so there are 21 main parts, they're all double. So we have 2 persons portraying Jesus, 2 persons portraying Mary, 2 Judas, and so we are both equal. So Rochus Rückel is the other person portraying Jesus. So we even flip the coin who plays the opening night. And so
the other one gets the last.
Yeah.
Sorry?
The other one gets the last.
Is that the most important, the last performance?
It's definitely the most emotional you can imagine. So if you're on the stage for half a year and you had the rehearsals for another half a year, the last play is like people are really sad, and there are a lot of tears at the end, and people are hugging because, you know, it's the last play for the next 10 years.
For the next 10 years, yeah, so that's a big moment.
The older participants, they say, I don't know if I'm a part in 10 years, I don't know what will happen in the next 10 years. So it's very, very emotional, and a very, very, very special play. So.
Okay. Christian, Jesus, obviously the central character in the Passion Play. How do you cast Jesus?
Yeah, I want to know.
I start to do theater every year also with children. I know the inhabitants of Oberammergau from his childhood. So I look the whole time. I go to along the street and have the whole time a casting view. I look who is a soldier, who is a disciple, who is a high priest. But Jesus happened. After, I think the whole time on the Passion Play, and suddenly Freddie looks to me 10 years back, and I'm sure he is Jesus. He acted 10 years before as John. So I think I go around and come to all and say, come to be a part. I look to the voice. I come closer and closer and look to the range. But Jesus comes mostly to me. It's so suddenly I know he is Jesus. It's the same with him, and the same with Rochus. The other one, he's more than 15 years younger. The other one, so we have.
So 2 very different Jesuses.
So, yes, and he looks also different. He is blondish hair. Rochus, it belongs more to his eyes, how he looks, how he. I need a good feeling. For me, Jesus is the important part, so I need a very good feeling.
And it's not that we have an audition, and it's not that Christian asks you if you want to play a role. So it's like there's a public announcement in the year before the Passion Play is, and then the cast is announced. So the whole village is very excited on this day because
everybody waits to the moment I say who plays Jesus,
so, and then,
or Mary, or.
And can you do the casting in one day?
we have in front of the theater one day, and we have 2 blackboards, and one girl this year wrote the names. You can find Jesus, and then the whole village is around the theater. We start with a Holy Mass, and then we go outside, and after the moment I bring all the main parts, then I take papers and pick on the board, and everybody looks, oh, I am a disciple, I am a Roman soldier, I am a Jewish soldier, I am a high priest, and we do this all on one day.
But he sits for weeks and months to make the cast, so it's like...
I need a long time.
How big is the cast? What are we talking about? When the stage is full, how many people are there here on stage?
Over one day, we have 2,500 people, 2,200 people in the theater.
Right.
The theater. And the biggest scene is the scene in front of Pilate, if the crowd tries to crucify him. And then in this scene, we have around 800 people on stage.
When do you start rehearsing?
Normally I need around, we start in May, and I need around 6-7 months. So I start mostly, so in this moment we rehearse on 1.5 years back. So I start this for the Passion Play 2022 in January. So 5 months before we have the first show.
Okay. Obviously, one of the main things that happens is that Jesus gets crucified. Now, that's something that you have to go through. I think you went through. You were Jesus in 2010, weren't you? And you went through it 50 times. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah.
First of all, I can't imagine how it's done technically. Does that hurt?
Technically, it's a big secret how it is done.
Okay.
No. It's like it's like you have, it's theater, and of course you have some theater tricks, but it's so you have a harness under your under the
cloth,
the
the loincloth, yeah.
And so you're fixed to the cross, and under your feet you have some plates where you have your feet
where
on,
you can
so
rest on, yeah.
where you can rest on a little bit, right? And the nails, they are round, and when you put theater blood on it, it looks really very real, even in the first row. And this is something, of course, we have a lot of rehearsals and technical rehearsals where we only try how to bring up the cross, and I still can really remember how it was the first time in a technical rehearsal, when you're the first time when the cross is moved up, and in the moment you have the feeling it's like it's going in front, and I was somehow really shocked, and it was like, because it's such a big thing and a big...
How high up are you?
I think the feet, they are like the feet are at 3 meters,
and
then
your feet are 3 meters off the ground.
So it's like
so
almost 5 meters.
So you can't suffer from vertigo to play Jesus.
No, definitely no. And of course, when you're the first time, then we have a lot of rehearsals. But when you're the first time on in the first play and you're on the cross, this also is, of course, a very special moment, because you really can feel that the people in the auditorium are suffering with you, and and for you and for myself, it's a very physical, demanding scene, because you're on the cross for almost 20 minutes, and it's not very comfortable, of course, and you have to play the and you have to play the suffering and the dying on the cross, and then you're another almost 10 minutes on the cross, and after the last words are spoken, and then you have to calm down and play that you're dead on the cross, and so yeah, it's a very demanding scene.
Emotionally, it must be also very demanding. How do you feel after the performance when you go home?
Yeah, it's like the whole day it's very exhausting, because it's every mood a human can have. You start in the first scene when you are riding you ride on the donkey on the scene, and the people are cheering, and it is very in a good atmosphere. And then when Jesus, in the Last Supper, when he says goodbye to the disciples, and or at the Mount of Olives, when you're crying and you play, so you have a lot of emotions the whole day. And then you have, of course, the way of the cross and the crucifixion, and at the end we also have like a small happy end, the Hallelujah, the rising, and so it's you're very exhausted. For me, it was always good after the play that you get somehow a distance to the road, that you drink a beer with your colleagues, that you talk about other things, because I think it's not healthy if you stay
obsessed by it.
If you stay in the role after the play.
Christian, we talked about the crucifixion, which I presumed was the emotional highlight, but you mentioned another emotional highlight in the story. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I think the whole time in the earlier play we have the scene Jesus beats out the merchants of the temple, and it was and at the end the merchants say Rache, Rache. Revenge. And I don't like this scene, because Jesus says go out, this is a place to pray, and so I say take it away from the merchants to say revenge. Let's Jesus open the Torah and let's pray. And we do it in the last Passion Play the first time. So suddenly I have the whole crowd, and Jesus takes the Torah and starts to sing Shema Israel. I think, and in the moment we do it the first time, it was suddenly totally quiet in the audience, because everybody thinks, what happened now? And the song, and it was a big moment for us all. For Jesus, I think this is for me the important thing is the moment in the Garden of Olives. When he says, I go this way till to the end. They can kill me. I go this way. I believe in God, and I go the way. I think I have to go my way on the God.
Yeah, whatever it takes.
Yeah, and but in the last in the rehearsal for 22, for me becomes more and more important in our world. We have in 2015 suddenly a lot of refugees in Germany. So it comes more and more. The theologians thinks in his eyes it's not so important. For me, it's more important. Jesus goes to the border, to the poor people. So it's and I say, for me, it's the the last is an important scene, but many scenes before are very important.
Very emotional. Okay.
Yep. Christian always said in the rehearsals, for him it's important why he ended at the cross. So that the things he said and the things he said to the people, and this is important to show in the first scenes. This is what Jesus wanted from us.
One of the things we talked about before is it's a very traditional play, of course, and the story doesn't change, but you make changes every 10 years. How do you keep the story fresh? How do you keep it relevant? Where do you get inspiration from as well?
First, I have a very good team around me. You can do this big play, not only your team, so Stefan Hagen, the costume designer and set designer, and also Markus Swink, my composer and the conductor. We speak, and I think from the first day we work together, we know you have to bring the play every 10 years to you and to your time, and you have to change. And so I couldn't stay and say I do it like 10 years back. So every day we start a new way. my inspiration, I get so many things. So there happens things in the church. I speak with Freddy, I speak with other friends, I speak with rabbis, I go to Israel. So there are a lot of inspirations.
A lot of sources of inspiration for you.
Inspirations for me, yes.
Okay, so it is almost like a new production every 10 years, right?
It has to be, because, for example, in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 50s, 60s, 70s, nobody was ready to change. What happened? The young people go more and more away from the Passion Play because the young people say it's boring, it's an old story. And I say we have to take the story and to say it's never an old story. It's the story of Jesus is almost a fresh story, but you have to read it in your way, and you have to, so it's very important for me to change it all 10 years. And even I become older, so I look in a different way to Jesus.
So how does the lead team get together and start organizing the new production? When does that happen, and when do you kick that off with costume and set designer and also with the music?
Yeah, 5 years before the Passion Play, the city council say you have to do it. So we know 5 years before the next play starts, the city council comes to us and say, please do it again, or to another one. And then slowly we start. But so 3 years before we start I start with the texts, and if I know in which direction I like to go, I speak with my composer and say we change this living tableau. We need new music there. Even he says I like to have music there, and in the same moment. Stefan Hagener starts to work on the costumes, and then we meet more and more and more, and then I finish my text, and then Marcus has his ideas for the music, and then we start to cast and to bring to look how many actors we have this year, how can we which one is so I think 3 years before the Passion Play we start with our work.
Quite a few changes, I'm sure, from 2010, from the last Passion Play. Can you tell us some of the main changes that you've made What can people look forward to in 2022?
So, first I can tell about the text. I try more and more, more than ever, to say Jesus comes to the poor people, Jesus comes to the prostitutes, Jesus comes not to the rich people. Even he is ready to speak with the rich people, but really to show. We say refugees has to go out of our country, but Jesus is one. He goes to these borders, and this is for me very important in the text. And even I look again, there are some anti-Semitic terms inside. I change in the high priest. I take a bigger group by the high priest behind Jesus. So it's very difficult to tell about. But the important thing is how acts Jesus on stage. But in Oberammergau, Stefan, he takes total different color from the last time. So he says, yeah, look to the costumes. Right. These are the high priests. These are the high priests. These are also one soldier from the Egyptians for the living tableaus. It's very difficult to.
So the living tableau is new for 2022. Is that something that's new?
No. The living tableaus is a very old thing. It comes in the Baroque time. The Baroque time that. Suddenly we have living tablets in the play, and it likes to tell a story. God handles since a long time in the world. So, for example, Isaac goes to the mountain of Moriah to be offered.
To be sacrificed
by his father. Yeah. And this picture is before Jesus takes his cross to go to Golgotha. So in this moment, you can see in the audience only a picture. All people are very quiet. You have to still stay. And the choir sings. And then the choir goes away from the stage. And then the next scene starts. But this is an old tradition from the Baroque time, and we have it till today.
Now you talked about the choir, so music, of course, is very important. You have 100 people live in the orchestra pit and 64 people in the choir. How about them? Are they amateurs as well?
They're amateurs as well. So we try really from the fireman to the worker on the stage, to choir, all actors. We try to take only amateurs from Oberammergau. In the orchestra, we need for some instruments, we need help from outside. But even our choir is our choir from the city and from the village.
Okay, I think we'll hear a short excerpt now from the music. Tell us a bit about the Shema Israel that we've just heard.
Yeah, this was a new new song in the last Passion, because I tell, for me it was important. Jesus speaks not only the merchants outside. He say this place, a temple, is a place not for many business. It's a place to pray. And then I ask, what can we pray on the stage? And I think it's important to think what Jesus praise in his time, and he is a Jew, and so suddenly he starts with the Shema Israel, and it was very funny because we take the Hebrew text. We take the Hebrew text. Normally we have the German text, but for this moment and another moment in the Last Supper, I say I like to have the Hebrew text. So Jesus in the Last Supper, he says, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu. So he, in the moment he takes the bread, and in this moment we take the Shema Israel, even in Hebrew, and it was very nice because I say to 450 actors, now you have to learn Hebrew. And it was a great moment.
So, Frederik, how was that for you? You can speak Hebrew now.
Not a little bit, so we learned the words, but it was really exciting because in this moment we learned how to handle the Torah. So we also went to a rabbi in Munich, to the synagogue, and he showed us the right way and said it's not a real Torah because it's holy, but it was like also there were some written, it was old texts, and this was really amazing. And they said, no, you have to treat it with respect, and it's not allowed to put it on the floor, and this is how you carry it. And then we started to learn the Hebrew words and the Hebrew, the Shema Israel, and this was very special. And at the beginning it irritated us somehow, and because it's not our words, but at the end everyone loved it. Everyone who was in the scene, it was like a
normally in our last play we do all together the Te Deum. Großer Gott, great God, we praise you. But in the last play, the actors asked me, can we do on the last moments the Shema Israel? And it's even today we can, with the pandemic, with Corona, we have so many stupid people who fights against Jewish, and in Oberammergau it's nice. We learn together Hebrew. We go to Israel. Even children wear a kippah. So I think maybe we bring anti-Semitic out of the world. I hope so.
Well, that's a very nice point to finish off on. Your message with the Passion Play is to bring the world closer together, it sounds.
I think
like
it's very important. I grew up as a Catholic. I'm a totally a Catholic. My grandmother is a Protestant. It's okay. But I grew up, but I think whatever we believe, in Islam or in Judaism, we have to respect us. And so I'm very happy also that young Turkish boys and girls who live in Oberammergau and his parents live here are now a part of the play. It was not earlier. So today everybody can be a part of the play. And this, I think we have not to fight against each other. We have to respect.
Well, that's a wonderful mission to have, I think, and I hope very much that you'll be directing the play again in 10 years' time, Christian. Do you still have the motivation?
Maybe,
do you still have the motivation for that?
Maybe I'm too old. Now I do it since 4 times.
4 times already, yeah.
And it's 10 years between.
Okay.
But I'm sure if Christian still can walk in 10 years, and I'm
can
sure
walk,
he will do it.
Directing it.
He will do it.
Okay.
I'm sure.
We've got one.
You, Jesus?
I'm too old then.
There's one more song in the play that's very important. That's the Heil Dir song, right? Can you tell me a little bit about that song?
Yeah,
Frederik?
that's the first song. It's in the first scene of the Passion Play. It's when Jesus enters on the donkey in Jerusalem. All the people on the stage sing it, and it's a very emotional song because everyone learns it even in kindergarten or in school, and so almost every person in Oberammergau knows the song from very young. So it's something like the national anthem of Oberammergau somehow. It's like, and it's very emotional.
What does that mean, Heil Dir, in English?
It's hail you. to
so it's
you.
a greeting.
It's a greeting for Jesus in the entrance of
Jerusalem.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Well, we're going to have a look at that song now that was taken during the rehearsals in 2020. And after that, we'll have time for your questions, dear viewers. So we'll enjoy now the Heil Dir song from the 2020 rehearsals. Christian Stückl, director of the Passion Play, and Frederik Mayet, Jesus and director of communications. Thank you so much. I've really had a great time. Thank you to the viewers as well. It's been really special to be here in Oberammergau in the Passion Play Theatre, and I hope we've brought a little bit of the feeling of the place for you, and we're really looking forward to seeing you next year. The premiere is on the 14th of May 2022. Auf Wiedersehen from Oberammergau.
In Oberammergau, you dive into the impressive nature.
In Oberammergau, we have a passion for theater.
In Oberammergau, we love action.
In Oberammergau, you can enjoy regional delicacies.
In Oberammergau, we are well connected.
In Oberammergau, you can get up high.
In Oberammergau, we keep traditions alive.
In Oberammergau, you sleep like heaven.
In Oberammergau, you can enjoy life.
Servus, Christian. As mayor of Oberammergau, I warmly welcome you to our village.